Okay, let's get started. I'm Barb Chapman with the Mendocino County Library. Welcome to our first of 4 cooking demonstrations, part of our Book to Action program featuring the book 6 California Kitchens and programs focused on local foods, recipes, gardening, and more. It is supported by the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services and the Library Services and Technology Act administered in California by the State Librarian. And we are recording the session. John Farais is a Northern California chef who specializes in cooking with plants native to North and South America. Today, he will be demonstrating cooking paella, and I'll be sharing the recipe in the chat in a few moments. Welcome, John.
Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. This is a series that we're experimenting with, and I'm really excited that you came tonight. And our first class tonight is about paella. I've been cooking paella now for quite a while in a lot of cooking classes, and it's a very popular dish. It's Spanish, comes from I think maybe Valencia is where it originated. It originated in the fields where the workers would just make their meal from whatever was available out in the fields, and they added rice, and it became paella. So that's what we're going to do tonight. It's a very simple dish. It may be, it seemed like it's maybe a little complicated, but it's not really. It's just all the ingredients that you can add to it makes it seem like it's complicated, but a lot of it is just flavorings. And I'm going to explain that all to you tonight. First of all, I want to start off with the paella pan, a paellero, I think is what it's called. And this is the size that we're going to use tonight. Now you can get them in various sizes. This will do about 4 people. I also have the small one. This is for double, but I wanted to have a little bit of room tonight. So I'm going to use the next size up. And then this is a big one. This would probably do 8 to 10, maybe, yeah, about 8 to 10, maybe 12. And you can get them even bigger. But the reason that they're used is they're carbon steel, so they heat up very fast. It's a thin metal, so it does heat up fast. So you have to watch your fire. But also, it makes it possible for you want the rice to be in a single layer. And because I'll talk about that as we go, a single layer creates a nice crispy rice at the bottom, which makes it very special. That's kind of the signature for the paella. So let's get started. We're going to get started with adding all of the ingredients are on the recipe. So I'm going to use vegetables broth tonight, but I'm going to put it into a pan, and I'll show you why. I'll tell you why in a little bit. So I got my rice measured out. Now in the recipe that I provided, you're going to have the amount per person. So that way you don't have to guess. It's really convenient if you want to really make this recipe. It's basically a half cup of rice per person, and you double that with the broth. So it'd be 1 cup of broth per person with a half a cup of rice. So I'm going to use a full cup of rice with 2 cups tonight because I want to have enough room to make everything. And what we're gonna make tonight is called a paella mixta. It'll be also seafood and with vegetables. So I'm going to be using a red pepper, a tomato, onions, garlic, and bay leaf. This is a California bay leaf, very strong. So instead of using the regular bay leaf that you might find in Mediterranean countries. And then we also have a little bit of Spanish smoked paprika. Got some saffron. Now, this saffron you can find at Trader Joe's. It's really a good deal, and I believe it's Spanish saffron, which is considered the best. Excuse me. And it's really inexpensive. So this is a good saffron to use. We're also going to use a little bit of cumin, salt, pepper, and some oil. And I'll show you the meats. So with a paella mixta, we're going to use shrimp, mussels, chorizo, and chicken. So what I'm going to do is we're going to peel the shrimp first. But, so the thing about this is we're going to save the skins because we're going to add them to the broth over here with the broth that I just added. I just put into the pan. We're going to cook the shells with the broth. This is going to add a little bit of extra layer of flavor. So this is a trick that you might want to remember. This could be good for any kind of seafood dish that you want to do, is cook up the skins, because the shells, because there's a good flavor in that. You'll get that nice little seafood flavor. So I'm going to be using, what do I got here? I got 4 shrimp. So I'm going to put the skins in with that. And why I got the broth and the skins over here is that's what we're going to cook the mussels in. So you see, this is going to be adding extra layers of flavor. So these are little tricks that really make a difference at the end. So see, so it's real tasty. And then we're going to get that started. We're going to cook the mussels in it, but we're going to take the mussels out. Now, one of the signature things with paella is the saffron. Saffron gives it a nice kind of ends up being a yellow flavor. We're going to add the saffron into the broth. But we're going to add the saffron later after the mussels are boiled and opened, because saffron will kind of lose its pungency a little bit if you boil it too long. So we're going to boil it, strain it, and then put the saffron in, and then it'll be ready to go nice and hot. So I got that going. Because we are at an outdoor farm, this is Tara Firma Farms in Petaluma, and we are outdoors. So I have to light the stove top by hand, because the pilots always blow out. I got the right one. There we go. So I'm going to get the paella pan started. Now, in the beginning, we want to do about medium high, not real high heat, because the pan gets real hot. It's a very thin metal. So what we're going to do is we'll let this boil. I'll cook the mussels in that. Take the mussels out, and then strain the liquid. And then that liquid, then we'll add the saffron, and that liquid will be ready to go into the pan when we're ready. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make what's called a sofrito. Now, paella and a lot of dishes worldwide have their own little base sauce. Like you'll notice in different countries like Italy and France, they have what they call a mirepoix, which is basically celery, onion, and carrot. Well, this is kind of like the mirepoix for the Spanish. So this is, we're going to use the tomato, the pepper, and onion. So I'm cooking this all up. Cut it up first. You want to prep all of your ingredients beforehand, before you actually start to cook, because that will make things go faster once you actually finally start cooking. So basically what we're going to do here, I've got a little bit of a cold if you haven't been able to tell. Okay. So we're cutting up the peppers. Can everybody see okay? You can't see, let me know, or let them know, and they can let me know. So I've got the peppers cut up. Basically, it's a large dice. I'm going to do the onion. And I'll show you how to cut dice an onion. You probably have seen it a lot of times. It's pretty common, but it takes a little bit of practice. There's actually a couple of ways to do it. So what I do is I cut it in half. I'm going to come across the bottom with a nice cut that way and just kind of layer it up on top of the onion. Then come across this way. And then one more time. This way, we got our dice. Okay. So we're going to get that in. We're going to add a little bit of oil. I'm going to cook up a little bit. So I'm heating up the pan. We're going to do the sofrito first. Then we're going to do the proteins. We're going to take everything out. Then we're going to add the rice, and then we'll put everything back in. So that is that way we're not overcooking. That's what you want to hear. You want to hear the sizzle. So we got the onion going. We're going to add the pepper. And then I'll show you how we're going to add the tomato. This is something that I learned from a European chef. So what we're going to do, I cut the tomato in wedges, and we're just going to kind of grate the tomato this way. And what happens is you get all the benefits of adding tomato to your dish, but without the skins, because the skins kind of give it a little bit of a tougher way to eat. So I'm scraping the tomato against the grater, adding it this way, and this is what we call a sofrito. This is going to be the flavor base for the paella. Okay.
John, we have a question about the knife.
Yeah.
What kind of knife is that?
It's a Japanese knife. It's called a nigiri. That's basically it's a vegetable knife, basically. It's meant to cut vegetables. It's not really meant to cut, meats, but for a small job like this, it's the best knife I like to use.
Thanks.
Where I don't have big, serious cuts of protein. And then we're going to cook this up a little bit. So you have to watch with the paella pan because the handles are also metal, so they will heat up. Let me put this in the compost. Now here on the farm, it's really important that we save our compost because that's what's used for Terra Firma makes their own compost here. I have a studio on the farm property. I'm really happy to be out here because it's really a beautiful area. It's away from it all, if you will. So I'm cooking this all up. So what we got in here is we got the onions, we've got tomato, and we've also got pepper. And when this cooks up a little bit, I'm going to add garlic. Now, garlic is real easy to work with. What you do is you take it off and just give it a nice swat with the knife, and it opens up for you to take the skins off. Now, I mentioned about smoked pepper. This is the smoked pepper. We're ready to add the mussels. It's boiling with the skins. I'm going to put that in there, give that about 5 minutes. And once the mussels open up, then we know that they're done. So there's multiple ways to mince the garlic, but I like to just cut it into small pieces and then just chop it with a knife. So really, we're just starting off pretty much as you would like with most foods. Okay, so we're going on here. I got the mussels going. We've got the sofrito going. We're going to cook up the chicken and the proteins next, and they're all going to have their little time in the pan, and then they're all going to come out. And then we'll get the rice started. See that? Oh, that's nice. Well, you should be smelling that right now. Oh, man, is that good. We're going to add a little bit of smoked paprika. Now, there's a couple of ways that you could make paella, but this is, I think, pretty much the traditional way. I hear a couple of different ways, the traditional ways. So it's pretty much the way that you enjoy doing it. Once you know how to do this, you can create your own little traditional way to do this. But I don't think anybody from Spain is going to argue with you about good tasting paella, how it was made. It's almost like gumbo. I was making gumbo there for a while, and I would talk to people that are, from Louisiana, Cajun people, and they all have different ways of making gumbo, and they all say this is the real way, So it kind of goes, I guess you could say it's kind of a regional thing. So the important thing to remember about all of this is that we're adding flavor in each stage that we do. So right now we got the vegetables cooking. They're going to be adding their flavor to the pan. Next, we're going to do chicken. It'll be adding its flavor along with the chorizo and the shrimp. They're going to all be adding their flavor, and this is before we put the rice in. Yum, yum. So these are little ways to enhance food, to make it taste good. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Now this salt comes from a dried salt lake in, Salt Lake City. It's Utah. It's right outside of Salt Lake City. I think it's called Redmond. And so I'm adding some Native American salt along with some smoked paprika. This should give it a nice, good, deep, rich taste. Add a little bit of color. And there we are. You want it soft. You don't have to really cook it too much because it will be going back in the pan. You do want the onions done. So we're going to put that in here. And we're going to get started on the chicken. Chicken might take a little bit longer. There's flavor in that pan happening. We're going to add a little more oil. So we've got the sofrito in there. It's going to be going back in. Chicken now is going to be going in. I'm going to add a little more oil. I like to use avocado oil because right now it's probably the cleanest cooking oil out there. Because I don't know if you've been hearing, but a lot of the oils have been tainted with other oils. So as of right now, avocado oil is 100% pure. Chosen is a very good brand for that. Okay. I'm going to lower the heat now again. Put in the chicken. And I'm gonna do the chorizo with that. And the mussels are done. We'll take those out, let this chicken go for a little bit, and then throw in the chorizo. So I'm going to take the mussels out. Then we're going to strain the broth. So once the mussels open, that means that they're done and they're good to go. We'll put those in last because they're already cooked. Okay. We're going to strain the So there we are. There's a very flavorful broth that'll be going back in there. And we might end up having to, because we're cooking rice in a pan, we may end up having to add a little more broth. But we're starting off with a very flavorful base. Okay. We want to add a little bit of, now's the time to add our saffron. Now you'll notice once you get your recipe that it says it's breaking it down per person as far as the amounts, because that makes it very easy. But what it does is it breaks it down into 5 strands of saffron per person. I wouldn't bother in counting it, but just have a little bit in there to give it color, because it's very thin and it's also very light. And I don't know if you know, but it takes, I don't know, 100,000 strands to get 1 ounce. So it's a very expensive spice.
We have a question. Does the farm do farm tours or host classes at the farm?
Yeah, Terra Firma does give tours. It's available for sure on the weekends, and I think you can probably make appointments during the week too. It's a working farm, and you'll find the pigs, the chickens, and the cattle, and sheep are also here. There's some gardening, of course, going on. Also, there's a nice CSA with Terra Firma. So the CSA goes all around pretty much the Bay Area. I guess it's like 850 members. So it's a great CSA to hook up with if you're into farm food. They produce their own chickens are from another local farm, but they do produce a lot of the hot dogs and it's a collaboration with the various farms in the area. But they do the hot dogs, they do the all the steaks, because you'll find Angus cattle also grazing in this area. So we're doing chicken. I'm going to get that into the oven, and we're going to finish it off in the oven. We want to get a little bit. What you want to do is you want to saute the chicken first, because it gets a nice color. Okay. So I'm going to do the chorizo now. And a little bit of oil. Then after we take the protein, after the proteins are cooked, we'll take them out, and then we'll do shrimp real fast. Shrimp only takes just a couple of minutes. And then we'll add the rice. And then we'll be on our way to cooking. All right. So we've got our broth. I got the saffron in here after I strained the skins out, the shells from the shrimp. And I'm sauteing the proteins now. We've got our sofrito done. This is going to go back in when we put the rice in because they'll cook together. And then the meats will go in at various times depending on how done they are. And then we'll be on our way. Now, I got to tell you, though, the chorizo this is Mexican chorizo. This comes from El Salvador, handmade in El Salvador. And I got it out of a Mexican market or a Spanish market in Petaluma here called Lola's. They do a lot of their things like this are hand done. And so now you could use, I'm using drum, could also use thighs. Chicken thighs are really good, but I like to use dark meat preferably over the breast because it stays juicier longer. It takes a little bit longer. And when you're cooking it on the bone with skin, you get a nice crispy taste and it really seals in the flavor. The bone on in the chicken helps to really make it very flavorful. Without the bone and without you get the skinless pieces of chicken, and those cook up really fast and really nice, but you don't get the same kind of sear and the same kind of flavor without the skin. All the flavor comes with the skin and the bone in. I got a little bit of cumin here. I'm going to add a little bit of that. Okay. These will go in again once we get the chicken going, rice going. Now we're going to do the shrimp. And this pan is full of flavor. I probably don't even have to do anything to the shrimp. They're just going to soak up everything that's already in the pan. Add a little bit of salt. And we don't want to overcook shrimp. Shrimp take a very short amount of time, and they just have to get beyond, they just have to get too opaque. You know, they're translucent when you take them out of the skins, but then you cook them, and and you just need them to just barely turn opaque. Here we are. Okay. Now we're ready to add the rice. Like I mentioned, it was like half a cup per person. So I'm going to do 1 full cup, basically for 2 people. Because more than likely, when you cook, you'll end up probably doing it for 2 people. So I'm adding the rice now. Going to give it a little bit of a stir. Let it soak in what it's got going. Gets a little bit dark. Very tasty. We're going to add now the broth. Probably going to need a little bit more. I like to use Pacific broth. It's an organic broth. Okay, we could turn it up here to get it going. And then we'll turn it back down again. So we've got the saffron, all of the ingredients in here, and we've got nice clumps of flavor just floating around in all of this. So now we're going to add the sofrito. And it's all going to cook together now. It's going to take probably 15, 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going to turn the heat on high, and we're going to let it come to a boil, and then we're going to bring it back down again. So what do you think so far? Any comments? Anybody have any questions? Okay.
I'm letting everyone know they can unmute and ask questions if anything comes up.
Yeah, that's good.
I can't smell it, but I feel like I can.
I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chicken back in, let it cook, because it needs to now cook a little bit more. So it'll be cooked, and we gave it a nice little sear, a nice little crust. So this is going to be nice and tasty. So by the time this is all done, this chicken should be just right.
I have a question. I'm embarrassed to say I have never had this dish in my life. Is this considered a meal in one, or is it like a side, or what is it considered?
Yeah, no, this is like a main dish, because if you think about it, you know, you've got your vegetables, you got your starch, you got your protein. So basically, yeah, it's a dinner in one.
Great.
You might want to make it right along with some salad, and of course, you should also have some white wine or maybe some nice light red wine.
Wonderful.
So yeah, this is a meal. This is an entree. I'm going to slice up the chorizo while we're cooking here. So as you can see, I think maybe what I'm going to do is just open it up and let it all cook. So you can just take it right off the skin, and then we'll throw it in there, just kind of like how you would use hamburger. All right. Also add a little bit of wine. You could suggest sherry. This is a Moscato, which is a little bit sweet. So it'll kind of take the place of a sherry. Sherry, of course, is one of the national drinks of Spain. When I cook, I like to get into the history and the culture of the foods, because that's really where the heart of people lie, is in their food and how they grew up with their memories of you know, their auntie or their nanny, mom and dad's, you know, family cooking around a meal. It's always very special, and that's what makes food very special. And I think that's really the best way to enjoy life, is being able to cook for yourself. It's a healthy way too, because you're not going to give yourself all the processed stuff that you can buy in a store and cook up in you know, microwave in 10 minutes. This is you know, where love started. This is what love continues to do, you know, is cook. People love food. Every culture has their own dish that they consider dear to their hearts, and this, of course, is very dear to the Spanish. Valencia, like I said, started there, but it's all over. it's all over the world now. And it's really an exciting thing to learn about other cultures. I went to Africa about, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I went to Ghana, and one of the first things I learned was their dishes. And where I was there for about 10 days, and every day I was up there. They have this little place. It was up on a hill, and they were up on a hill, and they can oversee the school grounds. So I was up there with them, and every day they were prepping their food fresh from the vendors on the streets. And they were preparing this for the kids. And they do this every day. And I was in a village that had no water, no heat, no electricity, no plumbing. And yet they still considered food their grounding. So it's really interesting. Food is just how do I say it? It's a major cog for world peace, I think. I think maybe the ambassadors in politics should be taking food from one country to the other and offering their food back and forth. And how much more peace would we have, and probably better fed people too. So that's what I think about food. That's my take on food. Make it for yourself. Learn a dish that you really like, and learn how to freelance around that dish. Add things or take away things. It's up to you. And that's really, to me, that's what really food is about. That's why I still enjoy preparing food. I've been a chef now for over 20 years, and I still enjoy cooking for people. And I work with ingredients native to the Americas, like they said in the introduction. And I studied ethnobotany, but what I studied mostly was the culture around food, because there's always a culture with traditional foods, and they're traditional because of the culture created a special ceremony or a special remembrance or something around that food, and it's just handed down from generation to generation. All right, so we're getting there. Anywhere you go in the world, food is important. I watch a lot of the food shows, and what I really like are the street vendors. In all the Asian countries, they got their own little place, and there's probably 20 places in this really small place, and everybody's doing their specialty, and you can just really get fed well, for pennies. And it's amazing. I'd like to do more traveling and see more street food and enjoy more street food. All right, so here we are. So the chorizo is going to be thrown in next. I think it's probably a good time. Want to get down about when you start seeing the rice, that's probably a good time to finish all the other stuff in this. So we've got wine, we've got broth, we've got our sofrito, we've got chorizo in here, and the chicken is being done. So all of those flavors are melding together. And that's what really makes any dish a good dish, a flavorful dish, is the layers of food or the layers of flavor that you add with each step. And that's why when they call it a labor of love, it's a labor because you want to be specific and getting what you want out of it. And that means taking care at each step and adding what you feel is really, really tasty, what's really you. That's the other part of this, is that you have a chance to really be you in creating something. I tell you that, this is the traditional way to make paella, but at this point, I'm doing it from what I know best and how to make it. So whether it's traditional or not doesn't even really matter. It just needs to be good, flavorful.
We have another question. What is your favorite dish?
My favorite dish? Well, there's the official professional dish, and then there's also the dish that I eat when I come home and I'm just tired as hell. And that one is a one pot chicken. I like to make one pot chickens. I'll take a whole chicken and put it into a pot with potatoes and vegetables and broth and wine, and then I put it in the oven for an hour, and I got a meal for a couple of days, and I don't have to worry about cooking for a couple of days. So that's always nice. And the other one would be I enjoy salmon. I enjoy king salmon. There's a difference between, for some reason on the West Coast here, we're getting a lot of East Coast salmon. And what that means is that the Atlantic salmon is farmed. So why do we want to go get Atlantic salmon when we've got the best salmon out here, fresh and wild, which is king salmon? And that stuff is huge. I mean, it's thick, it's beautiful. And there's a whole history of the salmon out here out west. And tribal nations have depended on salmon for thousands of years. So it's a history that is significant to the California people. All right. And also, so I was telling you earlier about, you've been watching me pick at this, and actually I haven't really been stirring all that much. But what happens is, what you do is, once you get all the ingredients in, you just let it cook. You're not supposed to stir it. And then what happens is the bottom layer of the rice becomes crispy, and that's called sokarat. And there's even a word, for that kind of rice. And I'm sure there's a lot of cultures that cook rice that really enjoy the crispy rice at the bottom of the dish. And so that's what sokarat is for paella. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, we're almost done. Yahoo! All right. But that wasn't so bad, huh? Now, with all of the flavors that we've added and the heat, it's given it a little more of a brownish hue, but it tastes great. It's wonderful because everything has combined itself to make a very delicious rice dish. Okay, so we're almost done. You want to get it to the point of where it is drying. I mean, where the rice is dry, it's not all that wet. So we've got chorizo in here. We got the chicken that's cooked with it. We've got our sofrito. And now we're going to add the shrimp. Going to give it a couple of stirs, and then we're going to add the mussels. Okay. Everything is nice and hot. Mussels. We'll give this mussels a stir, and then what we do, just to get them just to get their juices in there too. So here we are. And so now we're done. And you can arrange the mussels kind of in a circle on top, where they're up like this. Okay, there we are. Okay. Now, when you're done, basically you just serve it like this onto the table. And
Could you
everybody
bring
just
that up to the
kind of takes
camera?
family style. And there we are, Spanish paella.
It looks great. Can you get it closer to the camera, I wonder, so we could?
Sure.
I
Yeah,
mean, that
let's
looks
do that.
really good. Oh man. Ah, yum.
Maybe they'll have an app where you can kind of sniff it or something and give you an idea of what the flavor's like. Or maybe we'll be able someday be able to send flavor through electronically. I don't know. All right, so that is Spanish paella. Any questions? Any concerns? Anything? Like to hear your feedback.
What did you say the name of the farm was?
Terra Firma. TARAFIRMA.
Terra firma.
Yeah, they're in Petaluma on I Street. I as in the letter I. Right off of San Antonio Road. If you were to take 101 north, you'd get off at San Antonio Road and follow that into I Street. We're right next to a horse ranch.
Thank you. If anyone
And
else
they
wants to
are,
unmute and say anything, feel free.
I was going to say if you're interested in the farm tours, Sonoma has what they call I think they're called farm tours. Yeah, it's called farm tours. They just had one. You can get a chance to see Terra Firma, plus a lot of the way other farms are also making noise about what they do. So it's always a good thing to check out what other farms are doing.
I've always been intimidated by paella, but you got this whole thing done in 50 minutes. So I could probably do that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the recipe, it seems like there's a lot of stuff on there, but most of that is just accoutrements. And and actually you could add or take away just about anything you want, really. If you don't like chicken, you don't need to add the chicken, but I'm giving you kind of an idea of how the top of the line goes for paella as far as everything you'd ever want in one dish.
I noticed there are green beans in the recipe, but I didn't see you put green beans in there.
Oh, you caught me.
What's that about?
Well, I had bought some beans a couple days ago and I put them in the refrigerator and they froze. They were fresh and they froze and they just kind of withered. So yeah, you can add beans and also peas. Peas is also a very traditional ingredient for the paella. And those would go in, if you buy fresh beans, you'd want to put them in and make sure they cook. But if you buy frozen, which is perfectly good too, they're usually peas and then they're frozen. So they are good peas. Organic, you should buy organic. All your vegetables, you should buy organic. But you can, if they're frozen, you can add the peas at the end and just cook them enough to get them warmed up because they're already, of course, blanched. So they don't need to cook a lot.
So is it important to have like a wide flat pan for cooking it?
It's very useful. Yeah. There is the reason of, like I mentioned earlier, is that you want to get the rice as close to the pan, all of the rice as close to the pan as possible all at once. Basically it's kind of like trying to get a single layer of rice. It's not really, doesn't really happen, but it's a lot closer to all cooking evenly than with other pans. Especially when you're doing it like on an open fire, because now you can cook rice in a rice cooker and, that's very hot steam and that cooks it very well. But this is kind of crispy, you want it crispy and you want a little bit of a cover on it, sear. And it absorbs flavors this way a lot better too.
What about a possible cast iron?
No, actually, you don't want to use cast iron, but you could use like a wide. You could use something like this. this would work well. This is a kind of like a stainless steel. Cast iron would be, it's kind of like what they call live metal, and it would add a little bit too much flavor of iron or metal. So you want to use something like this. This is a stainless steel pan. This would work well too, but you notice it is kind of wide and flat. It's all, you know, kind of very similar. So this would work also. So this is basically a regular frying pan. You know, you can use the various sizes and it would work probably just as well. The only thing is the stainless steel doesn't heat up quite as evenly as carbon steel does. Carbon steel heats up fast and it kind of heats up evenly. So stainless steel is a little bit different, but it could work. So it's not, I don't mean to take anything against it. I just know these things. And so I just kind of let you know the differences between the metals.
Thank you so much.
What's that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if I could be of any help, answer any questions, or if you're looking for other recipes, I got another class coming up on, what is it, the 25th, with we're going to do a French style, what they call poisson en papillon, which is basically fish in paper. And it's basically like steaming, and you're going to learn how to do the classic French approach to that. But my website is indigenousedibles.com, and you can also email me for the Indigenous Edibles one. Either one, I have both of those. So I'm happy to communicate with you, and we can learn together. Maybe you could tell me something about your food that would be really interesting for me. So I'm always fascinated about, like I mentioned, about the culture and the heart of the people that have, I guess you could say, toiled. You know, they've toiled for hundreds of years in making things the way they are now. And so that's a special history that adds a really nice spice to food. All right. So where are we at? Did we make the hour?
Yeah.
We made it. 6:56.
Great.
Really? How do you like that? All right. So there you go. It took about what, maybe 45 minutes or so, 50 minutes at the most. So that's it. You know, you dinner in 45. That's not bad.
Well, I'll read a comment to you. Wow,
Okay.
that is beautiful. And I'm so surprised at how quickly it all came together. Thanks so much.
Oh, good. Great. All right.
Thank you all very much, and see you next time.
All right. So on the 25th, we're doing French. And I got a special class. My 4th class is going to be acorn gnocchis. I make my own acorn flour. So I'll give you a little bit of insight on that. But then we're going to do gnocchis like Italian style, which basically gnocchi means dumpling. So I'm going to be making Italian dumplings with acorn flour. So maybe we'll do some brown sage butter or something with it. So I'd really like to see you back for that. But we got 2 other classes in between that. So curing salmon too is also a good one. All right. Thank you
very much.
Thanks, John. It was
You're
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll talk more a little bit later. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.